the whispers of bone and shadow. The mist clung to the tombstones like spectral fingers, weaving between weathered granite and crumbling marble with an almost sentient hunger. Evil-Lyn moved through the graveyard with the fluid grace of a predator, her azure skin seeming to absorb what little moonlight pierced the shroud. The Havoc Staff hummed with barely contained power in her grip, its crystalline headpiece pulsing with an ominous crimson glow that painted the fog in shades of blood. She had come to Mortis Vale Cemetery following whispers, literally. For 3 nights the voices of the dead had reached her in her tower sanctum, pleading, warning, screaming of an abomination that walked among their eternal rest. The dead, Evil-Lyn had learned long ago, were rarely dramatic without cause. The cobblestone path beneath her feet was slick with moisture and something else, a residue that made her skin crawl with its wrongness. As she ventured deeper into the cemetery's heart, the mist grew thicker, more oppressive. It moved against the natural wind patterns, coiling and uncoiling with deliberate malice. "Show yourself, grave robber," Evil-Lyn called out, her voice carrying the authority of one who had commanded demons and bent reality to her will. "I know you're here." The dead sing your name in frequencies that would shatter mortal minds. A laugh echoed from everywhere and nowhere, reverberating off moss-covered mausoleums and cracked headstones. It was the sound of autumn leaves being crushed underfoot, of children's tears freezing in winter air, of hope dying slowly in a dungeon cell. "Ah, the infamous Evil-Lyn graces my little sanctuary." The voice seemed to seep from the very mist itself. "I am honored, though I must confess your reputation preceded you in most unflattering terms." "Reputations are currency among our kind," she replied, turning slowly, tracking the source of the voice through arcane senses. "What concerns me is what you've been purchasing with the souls of the dead." From behind a towering angel statue, its wings now broken and eyes weeping stone tears, stepped a figure that made Evil-Lyn's breath catch despite her considerable experience with horrors. The man, if man he truly was, wore robes that seemed cut from midnight itself, fabric that didn't so much absorb light as devour it. His face was gaunt, aristocratic, with skin the color of old parchment, and eyes that held the cold luminescence of dying stars. "I am Thanatos Vex," he said with a courtly bow that somehow managed to be both elegant and mocking. "Formerly of the Crimson Circle, before they grew squeamish about my research methods." Evil-Lyn's grip tightened on her staff. The Crimson Circle had been a cabal of necromancers so depraved that even she had found their practices distasteful. For them to expel a member spoke to transgressions beyond the pale. "What have you done here, Vex?" she demanded. "The barriers between life and death are sacred laws, not suggestions for your amusement," Vex laughed again. And this time Evil-Lyn could see the sound made visible, dark ripples in the air that caused nearby flowers to wither and die. "Sacred? My dear sorceress, you speak as one who has never truly tasted death's nectar. I have found something far more intoxicating than mere necromancy." He gestured with one skeletal hand, and the mist around them began to part, revealing the true scope of his violations. Graves lay open like wounds in the earth, their occupants missing. But worse than empty coffins were the ones that weren't empty, corpses that moved with jerky, unnatural motions, their eyes burning with stolen light. "Puppet mastery of the dead is children's play," Evil-Lyn said, though she noted how the undead moved with more coordination than typical zombies. "I've seen more impressive displays at Skeletor's dinner parties." "Have you indeed?" Vex's smile revealed teeth filed to sharp points. "But these are not mere puppets, my dear. Watch closely." One of the corpses, a woman in a tattered burial dress, turned toward them. When she spoke, her voice was clear, intelligent, terrified. "Please, I remember everything. My name is Sarah Blackthorn. I died 3 months ago, but I can't rest. He won't let me rest. Please make it stop." Evil-Lyn felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Impossible. The consciousness departs at death. What you're suggesting is an abomination beyond imagination," Vex finished, his eyes gleaming with unholy pride. "I have discovered how to trap souls at the moment of death, to bind them forever to their decaying flesh. They retain all memory, all personality, all capacity for suffering. And oh, how they suffer." The implications hit Evil-Lyn like a physical blow. This wasn't necromancy. It was something far worse. He had created a hell on earth, trapping souls in rotting prisons of flesh, unable to move on, unable to find peace. "You're insane," she breathed. "Even I have never conceived of such cruelty." "Cruelty." Vex stepped closer, and Evil-Lyn could smell the stench of grave dirt and something else. Something that reminded her of screaming. "This is art, this is the ultimate expression of power over death itself. And soon, my dear Evil-Lyn, you will join my collection. Imagine your considerable power, your beauty, preserved forever in exquisite torment." The attack came without warning. Vex raised both hands and shadows erupted from every grave, reaching for her with grasping tendrils. but Evil-Lyn had survived too many battles to be caught off guard. The Havoc Staff blazed with power as she spun it in a complex pattern, weaving a barrier of pure energy around herself. "You mistake me for some hedge witch," she snarled, channeling power through the staff. Lightning crackled between the tombstones, striking several of the shadow tentacles and dispersing them into wisps of acrid smoke. "I am Evil-Lyn, mistress of the dark arts, and I have faced the lords of hell themselves." Vex's eyes widened as her counterattack slammed into him, sending him stumbling backward against a crumbling mausoleum. "Impressive," he gasped, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. "But you fight alone, while I command an army." The corpses began to move, surrounding Evil-Lyn in a tightening circle. But instead of the mindless shuffle of typical undead, they moved with tactical precision, cutting off escape routes and coordinating their attacks. The woman who had pleaded for help now raised clawed hands toward Evil-Lyn's throat, tears of blackened blood streaming down her decomposing cheeks. "I'm sorry," Sarah Blackthorne whispered as she attacked. "I can't control it. He makes us dance to his will, but we feel everything." Evil-Lyn felt her heart clench with unexpected sympathy. These weren't monsters. They were victims. She couldn't destroy them without damning their souls to an eternity of agony. But neither could she allow Vex to continue his abominations. "There is another way," she murmured, then raised her voice to carry across the graveyard. "Vex, you claim mastery over death, but you're nothing but a parasite feeding on suffering. Face me directly, sorcerer to sorcerer, and prove your worth." Vex's laughter echoed off the tombstones. "Why would I engage in such theatrics when my servants can?" "Because," Evil-Lyn interrupted, her voice taking on a hypnotic quality that made even the undead pause. "You're not truly in control, are you? You're as trapped as they are, bound to this place, feeding off their pain because you lack the power to create anything of your own." The insult struck home. Vex's face contorted with rage, and he gestured sharply. The undead stepped back, forming a circle around the two sorcerers like spectators at some infernal gladiatorial match. "You dare question my mastery?" Vex hissed, dark energy crackling around his fingers. "I will show you the true meaning of eternal torment." He launched a barrage of necromantic energy, not the clean death magic of traditional necromancy, but something twisted and corrupt, designed to inflict maximum psychological trauma. Evil-Lyn met it with her own power, the Havoc Staff serving as a conduit for energies that could reshape reality itself. The two forces met in the center of the circle with a sound like reality tearing. The very air seemed to scream as competing magics warred for dominance. Tombstones cracked, the ground split open, and the mist writhed as if alive. But Evil-Lyn had learned something in her years of studying the dark arts that Vex in his madness had forgotten. True power came not from causing suffering, but from understanding it. She had walked the path of darkness not out of cruelty, but out of a desire to master forces that others feared to touch. Drawing upon reserves of strength she rarely accessed, Evil-Lyn began to weave something new. Not an attack, but a severing. Her magic reached out to the bonds that tied the souls to their rotting flesh, not to strengthen them as Vex had done, but to cut them. "What are you doing?" Vex screamed, his face twisting with panic as he felt his control begin to slip. "Stop, they are mine. Their suffering feeds my power. Their suffering ends tonight," Evil-Lyn replied, her voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Death is not a cage, Vex, it is a doorway, and you will no longer bar the way." The Havoc Staff pulsed with a light that was neither good nor evil, but something far more fundamental. The light of transition, of endings that lead to beginnings. One by one, the trapped souls began to slip free of their decayed prisons. Sarah Blackthorne looked up at Evil-Lyn with tears of gratitude in her fading eyes. "Thank you," she whispered as her spirit separated from her corpse and began to drift upward, finally free to find whatever lay beyond. Other souls followed, each offering their own benediction before dissolving into the mist, leaving behind only empty shells that crumbled to dust in the suddenly gentle breeze. Vex staggered, his power broken. Without the constant suffering of the trapped souls to sustain him, he aged rapidly, his flesh withering like old fruit left too long in the sun. "Impossible," he gasped, falling to his knees among the now empty graves. "Without them, without their pain, I am nothing." "No," Evil-Lyn said quietly, lowering her staff as the last of the souls found their freedom. "You were always nothing, you simply forced others to share in your emptiness." As dawn began to break over Mortis Vale Cemetery, painting the dissipating mist in shades of gold and pink, Thanatos Vex crumbled to ash that the morning wind scattered among the graves he had violated. Evil-Lyn stood alone among the tombstones, feeling strangely purified by the night's work. She had expected to find a rogue sorcerer practicing forbidden necromancy. Instead, she had discovered something that challenged her own understanding of power and its proper use. The dead no longer whispered of abominations in Mortis Vale. They sang instead of peace finally found, of a darkness defeated not by light, but by a deeper understanding of what it meant to let go. As she made her way back down the cobblestone path, Evil-Lyn found herself wondering if perhaps there were other ways to wield power, ways that didn't require endless domination, but could instead offer the rarest gift of all, release. The morning sun climbed higher, burning away the last of the unnatural mist, and Mortis Vale Cemetery returned to its proper role as a place of rest. Behind her, the graves lay open but empty, waiting for new occupants who would sleep peacefully, knowing that even in death, some bonds could be broken by those strong enough to choose compassion over conquest. Evil-Lyn smiled, her expression both beautiful and terrible, and vanished into the shadows between worlds, leaving only the whisper of magic and the echo of souls finally set free.